child, let's get into it because the girls want to know. Hey everybody, my name is AmberSharel. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, you can expect to find nursing, living in Dallas, lifestyle, beauty, all that type of content. I had a lot of people comment on my last video with a lot of questions about how I got into tech, how much money do I make, what is my day-to-day in the life look like now that I'm no longer a labor and delivery nurse. And so we're gonna get into the tea, honey, okay? We're gonna get into this Q&A. I'm gonna answer all of your questions, so stay tuned and thanks for watching.
Okay, someone asks, how is it not doing bedside? Do you feel more free or do you miss it?
Ooh, child. Okay, if I'm gonna be honest, it's absolutely lovely not doing bedside nursing anymore. And I say that just because for me and my journey, like I did labor and delivery for 6.5 years. I worked nights that entire time. And so it was just starting to become a lot like on my body. I felt like my body was like, when are we stopping? When are we going to days? When are we gonna have like a normal schedule? And so it's been nice to not do bedside for a lot of reasons. I do miss forming those relationships with my patients because I absolutely love being a labor and delivery nurse. It was nothing against that specific specialty. For me, it was just a lot that came into the politics of working in labor and delivery, the politics of working in a hospital setting in general. And I was just at the point in my life where I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted a good, healthy work-life balance. I wanted some stability. And so that was really the motivation for me to get out of a hospital setting from being a labor and delivery nurse. And now that I'm on the other side, I know I've said this before in a video, but I feel like my grass is greener outside of the hospital walls. I don't really have any complaints about the job that I do. I do not miss working in a hospital setting. The only thing that I miss, like I said before, is the relationships that I can form with my patients. Besides that, I'm loving it over here.
Someone asks how you got where you were career-wise.
Okay, so I'll just take that as how did I land or get the job that I have now. And I'm gonna say that is really, I was able to do it nothing but by the grace of God and a whole bunch of trial and error. So my last travel nurse assignment was October of 2022. It ended October 15th. I knew that I didn't want to go back to being a staff nurse, but I also knew that I was done being a travel nurse. I had no desire to continue to travel just because I was starting to miss having some stability. And if you are a travel nurse, or if you know a travel nurse, they have to pick up and move somewhere about every 3 months unless they choose to extend at that particular assignment that they're at. And so I was just really kind of tired of the hustle and bustle of that lifestyle. You know, am I going to ship my car? Am I going to drive it? You know, where am I going to go next? What is my next pay rate going to be? Because that's always so up and down. And so I started applying for jobs, or really like looking for my next step in September, because I knew my contract was ending October 15th. And it was a lot of trial and error. I was told and made to believe that I was going to be getting a position at a hospital in Dallas that was going to be more so like a nurse, like navigator or coordinator of this women's hospital, because I knew, here's the thing too, I knew that I didn't want to go back to being a staff nurse, because once you get a taste of travel nurse money, it is so hard to go back to be staff because they pay you literally crumbs. And I was just like, not doing it. And so I was really looking for other type of positions, whether they would be in leadership, but something that I could do that I didn't have to go back to school for to get my MSN, because I also didn't want to go back to school. So I thought that job was going to be mine, and the recruiter as well as the lady that was going to be my manager, they literally ghosted me. Come to find out, they ended up giving that position to a friend that was in need. So, you know, people look out for each other in this job industry. And so after that, I was pretty discouraged. And so I really just started to apply for any and everything that was for a registered nurse but was not in a hospital setting. I was applying out of desperation. A lot of the stuff that I was applying to, I knew that I didn't want to do, as far as like case management, utilization review nurse, just a whole bunch of stuff. And honestly, I wasn't getting called back from those positions because they wanted somebody with experience, and I was just haphazardly applying to it. Resume wasn't even really updated that well not to get a job outside of the hospital setting. And so also too, was barely on LinkedIn. I literally did not have a LinkedIn account, but I created one because there was this job that I wanted so bad. I was like, oh, I could do this. It was something in regards to fertility. And so I applied for that job, but in order for me to submit my application, I had to link my LinkedIn profile. And I'm like, I don't even have one of those. So that was the only reason why I created one. So that was another learning process within itself. But literally after that, I accepted a job as a nursing supervisor in Dallas. That was also out of desperation. I had no peace about it whatsoever. I knew I didn't really want to do that, but it was like, okay, at this point I've been out of work for like 3 months. I was at my mama's house. Hey mom, love you, but I've been living on my own since I was 17, and I was like, something's gotta give. So I accepted that job, moved back to Dallas, and like I said, I had no peace about it whatsoever. And so I started to continue to look for jobs. I had watched a podcast called Tech is the New Black, where all of these beautiful Black people are talking about all of these jobs and careers that they have in the tech space. And there was an occupational therapist on there, and she was talking about how she had just got a job. She took like some course or whatever, and she had just got a job as a sales engineer, if I'm not mistaken. And so the host of that show was talking about, you know, if you have a healthcare background, you know, if you're a nurse or whatever, start to look into health tech companies to see what jobs that they have. So I literally just started to brainstorm on, okay, what have I used while working in a hospital setting? What have I used as a nurse in terms of whether that's devices, you know, EMRs, like what have I used that's like tech related in what I do? And so I literally just started like writing things down. I started searching those companies on LinkedIn, and that's how I was able to find the job that I have now.
Alrighty, someone asked, what skills or tools did you use to revamp your resume? Several questions got kind of along those lines of, how did you improve your resume? How did you reach out to recruiters? How did you land the job? Like, what was that process like?
Okay, so as far as my resume goes, I did not hire anybody to redo my resume. I'm naturally good with writing and with words, like wordplay. Like I can take a simple sentence and figure out a way to make it better, especially when it comes down to writing something. So what I did was I had my nurse resume. I knew that, okay, I'm applying for this job. The job that I applied for did not care about anything nurse related other than the fact that I was a registered nurse and had been a nurse in a clinical setting for 5+ years. Okay, so I got that. So I know that they didn't care about that I've worked with, you know, high risk OB patients, that I'm doing like mag drips, that I've worked in like a birthing center. I knew that they weren't going to care about any of that. And so I really just studied the job description, and I had a screenshot of it. I still have a screenshot of it on my phone to this day. And so I'm like, okay, what can I do to my resume to show them, besides the fact that I've been a nurse for 5+ years in a clinical setting, that I can do this job? So a lot of times the jobs that you see, they'll have skill sets that they're looking for with that required information for that candidate. And so I was just really reading over that, incorporating some of those things into my resume, but also to kind of making it reflect to what I did as a nurse. And a lot of the things that we do as far as communicating with, you know, different departments and different, you know, key stakeholders, things of that nature, attention to detail, analyzing, like there's a lot of things that we do that will translate over into the tech space. So it's really just about how you word those type of things. And so I spent maybe like a good 3 hours just working on my resume before I applied to that job, because I'm like, I had been applying, I had had interviews with like pharmaceutical companies and things of that nature, but nothing was sticking. So I'm like, it's either the resume or something I'm doing wrong in the interview process as to why I've been told no to the other jobs before this. But, you know, ultimately, of course, God led me to the job that was for me. But I'm like, okay, what can I do different? So I spent 3 hours on my resume that day, working on it, revamping it. And then after I submitted the job application, I took it upon myself to comb through all the people that was working at my company to see, okay, who's a nurse, who's doing something similar, you know, to the role that I just applied for. Let me see if I can find a recruiter. Let me see if I can find a manager. And so I actually ended up finding a nurse that worked at that company, but she was not doing my specific role. And so I reached out to her, very, very sweet and nice. And I have a message template on how you can reach out to coworkers or people that work at that company, as well as recruiters, and that is located inside of my nursing course. That'll be linked at the bottom if you would like to see that and have access to that. And so I used that template, reached out to her. She was so sweet. She responded, let me know what her experience was like now working in the tech space. But then she also was able to tell me like certain managers and like recruiters, like, okay, what's the next step? Please keep me updated. Let me know who your recruiter is going to be when they call out. just all of those things. So it really does help to network. And I feel like the networking piece just really gave me that extra momentum. And once I applied for the job, I think I applied maybe like over the weekend. I want to say it might have been like a Saturday or Sunday. And I had my first interview with the recruiter that following Tuesday.
How do you create work-life balance?
Baby, the balance creates itself. No, in all seriousness, how do I create it? I don't have to actively work to create it. That's the thing. Like that's the blessing in disguise. Like I don't even really know how to explain it. Every day for me looks different in what I do. So, and I also have a very supportive boss and a very supportive team where they're like, hey, don't worry about that right now. Do what you need to do. Like if anything were to arise or come up, like they're like, okay, we got that. Oh, this is going on with your family, or you need to do this. Don't worry about it. We'll take the calls on Friday. You do what you need to do, and don't take PTO for that. We got you. Like it's God. That's really all that I can say and chalk it up to. It's not like I have to mentally work on shutting work off at a certain time to like give myself the type of attention that I need, or self-care that I need. It just kind of happens that way. For instance, it is 5:27. That's my godson too, by the way. 5:27, Friday, March 22nd. And I had one call this morning at 11 a.m. and me and my girl been here shooting content, getting things popping. So it's like things just kind of, the work-life balance has created itself, and it's just kind of fallen into place. And I'm so grateful because I'm able to now do these things and encourage, inspire, other nurses who were fed up just like I was and is looking for a transition. So I hope that answered the question. The work-life balance is balancing. It's balancing all on its own, honey. I'm not doing nothing extra special. I'm getting my hair done during the day, in between calls, get my hair done, get my nails done. Like my best friend, she just had my goddaughter. I think it's been about 3 weeks now. She had to have an emergency C-section. And so I flew out there like 2 weeks before she even delivered, and I was there with her those full 2 weeks because, long story, the doctors weren't treating her right. I was about to put my scrubs back on, become her nurse. It just got I was just like, I'm about to catch a flight because I don't like this. And so I remember I text my boss, it was over the weekend, and I'm like, hey, this is going on with my best friend. I'm going to be flying to Maryland, just wanted to let you know. Of course, I also have my computer and stuff with me. And she's like, girl, go to Maryland. She's like, I'm working from Switzerland next week. You can definitely work from Maryland. I'm like, well, we out. I'm out. I'm in Maryland.
How did you handle rejection with all the jobs you were initially applying to?
Listen, y'all. Don't tell me no. What? Why are you telling me no? I'm great. I struggled. If I'm being honest, I struggled with rejection when they were telling me no. For several reasons, I struggled. So I am used to being very independent, like just by nature. My mom, she would always tell me, even when I was young, that like growing up, she was like, you've just been very independent. Like I feel like I really didn't have to like worry about you like that. Like you just been like an old soul. And I'm also the oldest of all girls. And so for me, I have always had a job since I was able to work, like 15 years old. I always had a job. And so it was hard to be told no in the process because I've never really had that type of rejection before, especially when it comes to work, to getting a job. And for the length of time that I was applying, it was just like, what is wrong? Like I was frustrated. I was gaining weight. Savings, I like to keep my savings in a certain area. I'm like, okay, we dipping below where we're supposed to be. And I'm just like, just anxious, anxiety. I was at my mama's house sleeping on a couch because she's turned the guest room into her closet. That's for another story. And so I'm like couch living for 3 months because I had given up my apartment before doing the whole travel nursing because I was not going to be paying rent at 2 different places. So it was just a lot of factors that were also making the rejection from those jobs 10 times harder. And I'm not gonna lie, I was not okay. I was discouraged. I was questioning God. I needed a lot of prayer. I was on the phone with my grandma every other day, talking to my mom, it was just, it was not a good time for me. It was not a good time. And so that's why I say that I accepted that nursing supervisor position out of desperation. I had even applied to the hospital that I worked at straight out of nursing school, knowing good and well I did not want to go back there. But I'm like, at this point, I know that they will even take me because I have a history there, and they were even acting funny. So I'm like, okay, like what's going on? I can't even go back to where I started. Like, what is up? And so it was just such a trying and tough time. And yeah, that's why I am so adamant about sharing my testimony and what God has done for me and opening up this door, because I remember too vividly what that time looked like, and he turned it all around, child.
How did you prepare for interviews, and how did you answer specifically without sounding like a nurse?
Okay, so when it comes to interviews, there is a girl on TikTok, I swear by her. Her name is Advice with Erin, I believe. I will double check and make sure that I have that linked in the video so you can go check out her page. But she is awesome. I believe she's like a recruiter or worked in HR or something. I want to say at Microsoft. I could be wrong. That's one of those big tech companies, and she has a lot of followers. But she does these skits and scenarios where she's answering questions, interview questions, the right way and the wrong way. And so I just like combed through there. I was, taking those questions down, writing down what my answer would be, and then also formulating questions that I would like to ask them, because a lot of times they want that type of engagement too. And really, before this time, like applying for nursing jobs and stuff, like I would just have like a couple questions, especially when traveling. Like if I talk to the manager, okay, am I gonna be required to float? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not doing that. If you know, you know. Just those type of questions. Do travelers get sent home first? Like just very like minimal stuff, but really at the end of the day, you pretty much get the assignment 9 times out of 10. And so this process was completely different. I made sure I was very prepared. Not only did I write down those interview questions with the answers that I would answer with, I also combed through all of the history of that company. What are their mission and values? What are they about? Key products that they have, if it is that type of company, and just also to put my own spin on it. And honestly, the questions, I know it may seem like it may be tough, but it's really not going to be that tough to answer and not sound like a nurse. Once you get the question, it's kind of hard to anticipate the questions that you are going to get. But once you get that question, it's not going to be like the usual nursey type questions that you may get in a nursing interview, where they're like, okay, tell me about a time where you handled a difficult patient or a difficult, team member, or even if they say what was the time that you handled a difficult situation with a team member, you can still answer that even though you're talking about another nurse, because that's your experience. It doesn't matter that that team member is also a nurse, because they're trying to see how are you going to be able to handle conflict now working on our team. So don't get too caught up if you are applying and you're worried about the interview process. Don't get too caught up about how that is gonna go, and you not sounding too much like a nurse. Trust me, you'll be fine. Also too, if you would like, you can also click the link that I'm gonna have down below to book a one-on-one call with me. We can definitely do some interview prep.
X, what does a day-to-day look like for you doing your particular job?
So for those of you that do not know, I am a solutions consultant at a health tech company. So I basically do product demonstrations for software that we sell to hospital organizations. I am the subject matter expert of that product. So as far as the day-to-day goes for me, it's gonna look a lot different every single day. No day is the same. I may have one call that's just like an internal meeting. I may have to do a demonstration, or I may have no calls at all. It just kind of depends. But pretty much the way that it works is, besides the internal meetings that I have, if we have a client or a customer that's interested in the product, whether they have reached out to us via the website or there's some type of form of connection where we have their information and have reached out to them, the first step is going to be a discovery call. I am not over that discovery call. The account executive, aka a sales rep, is the one that's leading that call, but I'm on there just so I can hear everything that the customer has to say. Also to ask them questions. That way I can see, what are you currently struggling right now with whatever product that you have, and how can our product best fit your needs? So I'm also asking a couple of questions and taking down notes. From that process, the next step will be to do a product demonstration. That's where I come in, and that's my time to shine. The demonstrations are usually about 60 minutes to 120 at most, just kind of depending on what all they want to see. And so I'll do that demonstration either via Teams, Zoom, or I can do that on site. It's always fun to go on site, of course, because you get to travel on the company's dime. And I'm usually gone no more than 2 days. I may fly out the day before a demo, have the demo that morning, and then I'm flying back to Dallas that night. And then besides that, that's pretty much the gist of my job. I may have to respond to some emails, respond to like RFPs, and just pretty much help out my team and help out the sales reps in whichever way that I can.
Someone asked about your pay in comparison to nursing.
I knew I was gonna get this money question because everybody wants to know, girl, how much money do you make? What is the T when it comes to your bank account? And I'm gonna answer as transparently as I feel comfortable without having y'all too much up into my business. I've just kind of always been that way in general when it comes to finances and money. So I will say this. My best year travel nursing, I made $130,000, and that is with me taking 2 to 3 months off that year, I'll say. And that was due to like vacationing and stuff. And then also one of my contracts ended up getting canceled. I was trying to find one for like a month and a half. So it was about 2 to 3 months that I took off that year, and I was able to make $130,000. My best year traveling. And if you know labor and delivery nurses, I know COVID was going on, but typically those areas don't always pay as much as some of the other areas do, like ICU and ED. You know, there were some people that were walking away with, you know, $8,000 a week that they were making, and they were in the trenches, like New York with the rats and the patients and all of the COVID, and it just wasn't like that. I think my highest assignment rate that I had, I want to say was like $5,200 a week or so like that, and that was in Arizona. So I will say, as a solutions consultant, if you don't know, the role is considered like a pre-sales role. So I don't have any sales quotas or anything like that I actually have to meet, like an account executive or a sales rep, you know, would have to. But since I am a part of the sales process, I also get commission on top of my salary. So my salary is 6 figures, and then I also get additional money. I get paid out commission every single month for all of the deals that we close. So I started in May of last year. So from May to December, I think I received my first commission check maybe that June. So we'll just say from June to December, I made $39,000 just on commissions. And that's as transparent as I will get. So the Lord has lorded. God has provided once again. And that was something that was very crucial for me. And I was praying, I was very specific when it came down to finances, salary, what I was going to make in my next transitioning away from being a travel nurse. Like I said, once you get a taste of that money, yes, you get a taste of a different lifestyle, you know, you're getting stipends and everything of that nature. And I knew, like, okay, I want to be done with travel nursing, but I don't want to go back to scraping for pennies at the bedside. I'm like, I need to be at least 6 figures. I mean, 99K is the minimum that I would do. And I'm like, Lord, if I could match this, what I made as a travel nurse, or, you know, if you do more, of course, that's great. But for me, I'm like, let me just even make out at 100K and whatever I'm doing. And he has blown my mind in more ways than one, and what he has done for others, he can definitely do for you as well. That's pretty much all that I received from a question standpoint. A lot of the questions were repetitive, so I just kind of grouped them together to give one big answer. But someone also said when they mention to others that they want to leave bedside, they always get stumped on the question of when they ask, like, what would you be doing? Tell them to mind their business. No, I'm kidding. Okay, what? Not really. Don't be stumped on that. You'll really know and feel confident in it once you start to really do that job search. My tidbit is to make sure that you do your research. Tech is everywhere, really. If you got a phone, technology. The devices you use inside of the hospital setting, on your unit, as you're doing whatever with your patients, all of that is technology. So just do your research on all of the different health tech companies. I would start with what you come in contact with the most, and start there as far as the jobs that they may have available. And then from there, just do your research on different roles that you may see, whether that's in, project management, clinical liaison, clinical product specialist, clinical product consultant, just a variety of things. Make sure that you're on LinkedIn and utilizing that. I know for nurses, for us, when it's time to apply for a job, we literally just go to that hospital website and look at the RN positions that they have available. Get on LinkedIn. That's how you're going to really discover some of those other companies that you don't even hear about or don't even know exist, startup companies, things of that nature. So make sure that you're on there. You have a profile, a good picture, girl. Please have a good picture on there, okay? Whew. Good picture, good bio, and don't be afraid to network. Networking is, trust me, it can definitely get you far. I did a mentorship and a giveaway, and my mentee that I work with, she actually was on there networking her tail off, and she used a template that I actually used before with a recruiter, and she was able to get an interview, and now she has a job based off of that one. Not just saying that's all, I mean, her experience was great as well, but by networking, that actually helped her get even further along for a job that she had applied for. So make sure you get your LinkedIn. If you have not already and you need help with your resume, I do have a great resume guide. I have nursing courses. You can also book a one-on-one call with me. I'm so happy to help. I want to have some more nurses that are in the tech industry with me, especially some more. That's another story, but yes. Thank you so much for all of the questions. Please follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and let me know what else you would like to see from me.